Soultime at the Apollo, next on Black Nouveau. Hi, I'm Milton Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. Welcome to Black Nouveau. On this edition, we'll preview the Milwaukee Rep's tribute to the legendary Apollo Theater and tell you how to win tickets to the musical review.
The president of the school board will discuss his opposition to the suggested change of governance for Milwaukee Public Schools. And we'll profile one of our most influential community workers.
But first, we begin with the most recent inductees into yesterday's Negro League's Wall of Fame.
Seems like yesterday we used to rock the show. I laced the track, you locked the flow. So far from hanging on the block for dough. Notorious, they got to know that life ain't always what it seemed to be. Words can't express what you mean to me. Even though you're gone, we still a team. Through your family, I'll fulfill your dreams. In the future, can't wait to see if you open up the gates for me. Reminisce sometime. The night they took my friend. Try to black it out, but it plays again. When it's real, feeling's hard to conceal. Can't imagine all the pain I feel. Give anything to hear half your breath. I know you're still living your life after death.
Every move I make, every single day, every time I pray, I'll be missing you.
It's an annual summer tradition. The Milwaukee Brewers, yesterday's Negro League Baseball Foundation, and the Mother Daniel's Church of God in Christ salute the men who played ball in the Negro Leagues.
What we are left with from the Black Leagues is memory, legend, and an endless series of what-ifs with the names attached to them of Josh Gibson and Ray Dandridge and Cool Papa Bell and Willie Wells, and what might have been. What if these men had been there to play in the majors against the Ruths and the Cubs and the Walter Johnsons, and back farther against Cap Anson, who started it all.
This year, the celebration also extended to the Mason Temple Church of God in Christ, where former players met and greeted fans, signed autographs, talked about the good old days, and reached across generations.
You're fine, man. How you doing? What grade you in? Fourth grade?
Played against Ernie Barry. I was at Birmingham, he was Kansas City. And I hope they didn't think they learned him how to hit when he got to Chicago. He was hitting that ball before he got there. Charlie Pride, he was old pitcher for the Memphis Red Sox. And we heard all of the songs before he got famous. Sleeping at the foot of the bed, kissing Andy good morning. And we used to tell him, man, shut up. And now he's a millionaire 3 times over. So we had great experiences. I wouldn't trade a one.
Harold Buster Hare Jr. and the late James Jim P. Tillman Sr. were inducted into the Wall of Honor at the Mother Daniel Center. Hare was a third baseman with the Birmingham Black Barons and the Kansas City Monarchs.
I started in '53, right at the height of Jim Crow, and we had a lot of despairing moments. We had some, all good though. And we like to say that only the ball was white. And we went in some areas. We were in Wichita, Kansas. We played in Wichita. We had to go to Dodge City, and we called ahead. When we got through playing and we went to Dodge City, and the guy came out and said, oh, no, we don't have any rooms. We had to drive back to Wichita, sleep, and then go to Dodge City to play the next day. We were in Little Rock, Arkansas. The National Guard had to walk beside the bus with port arms to get us out of town. That was during the time that they were integrating the schools there. We were in Mississippi right after Emmett Shill's problem. So we saw a lot of things. And by me playing with Birmingham, I had a chance to see the dogs. Yeah, the sheriff down. We saw that, but it didn't affect us. We were accepted in a sense. They didn't come after us like we were really intimidating or whatever. They came to see us play.
James Jim P. Tillman Sr. was a catcher for the Rockville ACs, D.C. Indians, Charlotte Black Hornets, and Homestead Grays. He passed away on May 31st, 2009. His wife, Flavor, spoke for him.
This gives me a great honor to stand here on behalf of my husband. He would have been very honored to be here tonight. And so on behalf of him, very briefly, I say thank you for this honor. That very humble man would have enjoyed being in this stadium. I thank you, and God bless you all. And he played ball in school. Of course, he played baseball, football, and basketball in school. And then when he went to Armstrong High School, he really got into the baseball portion. And so much so that in 1939, he dropped out of school to go play with the Negro leagues and the Sandlot players and to travel. And he just enjoyed it. He enjoyed it. And finally, in 41, he went back to Armstrong, completed school, and then left again to go play ball. And that's during that period of time he played with the Homestead Grays, who were at that time in Washington, D.C.
In keeping with tradition, the Milwaukee Brewers and the Atlanta Braves wore throwback uniforms. The Brewers wore the uniforms worn by the Milwaukee Bears, while the Atlanta Braves wore the uniforms to honor the Atlanta Black Crackers. And of course, there was the customary throwing of the first pitch.
There's been a lot of news lately about a proposed change of governance for Milwaukee Public Schools. The governor and mayor support the idea of having the mayor take over control of MPS, while others do not. Dr. Michael Bonds is president of the school board and opposes the idea. Dr. Bonds, welcome to Black Nouveau, sir.
Thank you for inviting me to be on your show.
Thank you. Dr. Bonds, first and foremost, we need to first explain that at this point, this is a suggestion. No formal bill has yet been drawn up, correct?
Yes.
Do you know if there's a bill being worked on or not?
I have no idea what's being drafted or not.
Okay. So what's wrong with allowing the mayor to control MPS?
Several things. First, thousands of voters went to the poll in April 2007 and April 2009 and elected a new board. And the voters, they cast their vote. They have a constitution to cast their vote, and they did it. To come in and say that the voters got it wrong and we're going to take away people's right to vote, I believe it's undemocratic. And also, many people have lost their lives to give us this right to vote via the Civil Rights Act of 1965 that gave us the Voting Right Bill. So to come in and say that we're going to take away people's right to vote, that the voters got it wrong, I think it's wrong. Second, the mayor linked the takeover to the race to the top dollars, the federal fund, when there is no requirement in the application to change a governance structure. Second, even if Wisconsin, even if you change the governance structure of MPS, Wisconsin's chance of getting the funds are slim to none. The New York Times did rank the top 50 states in order of their eligibility based on the existing 5 criteria. Wisconsin ranked at the bottom. Also, the race to the top is a statewide application which impacts all 425 school districts in the state of Wisconsin, yet Milwaukee Public Schools is the only school district being asked to change its governance structure. And also, the Gates Foundation provided grants to 15 states that they thought was most likely to receive the race to the top dollar. Wisconsin was not one of them. And then also there's misinformation saying these dollars come directly to MPS. That's incorrect. The dollars come back to the state, and then the state will have to allocate the funds to 426 school districts. A third reason I oppose this, the current board has literally put close to $100 million back into the classroom in less than 2.5 years. We have restored arts, music, fire ed. We have increased driver ed requirement. We have put a lot of money in STEM program, Project Lead the Way. We have put millions to upgrade the computer science and computer labs. And we have made significant gains academically. A lot of proponents of the takeover cite a 48% graduation rate. That's old data. MPS graduation rate is currently 68%. Nationally, it's 70%, and statewide, okay. 80%.
For clarity purposes, Doc, I hear you say a couple of things.
Sure.
What you're saying, if the mayor takes over, citizens will be denied the right to vote.
Yes.
Could you please clarify that and explain?
Yes, under a proposed mayor takeover, the mayor would appoint the school board member as opposed to the voter. So the voters would not have any say in who the mayor put into those positions.
What about the superintendent?
The mayor also wants to appoint the superintendent with the takeover.
Second thing I heard you say is the race to the top. So in essence, what you're saying is money has something to do with this?
That's the main motive that the mayor's given. What's ironic about it, you can change the board governance structure and still may not get the dollar, but yet you have disenfranchised thousands of people.
How do you respond to critics who suggest that things are so bad now, a change of governors might not hurt?
Well, I will argue that some of the challenges that MPS has, some of the challenges MPS have are characteristic of other urban school districts, and merely changing the governance structure will not get to those problems. Some of the challenge you have is the funding law, where the state has retreated on its commitment of 2/3 funding. MPS also fund a parental choice program. We also have challenges where we have an 85% poverty rate among our students. We have a 40% mobility rate. We have a 19% special ed. And to think that merely the fact that you switch the board from elected to appointed, you will solve these problems overnight. All research has shown that real change, it takes time.
Okay. All right, and I guess this is has the potential to become the elephant in the room. How does race factor into the politics of this, Dr.
I think race has a big factor. When you look at the fact that the mayor cites the racial achievement gap as one of the rationale for taking over, and I counted that we have other racial gaps in the city that impacts the school district. Milwaukee leads the nation in unemployment among blacks. We had one of the highest poverty rate among African Americans in the nation. The income gap is some of the highest. We're one of the most racially segregated city in the nation. So when you look at all these factors, they impact because the problems of MPS are, in my opinion, a broader reflection of the problems occurring in City Hall.
So what I hear you saying also is that this argument about governance also detracts from more pressing concerns. Also, what does MPS need to do to close the gap between black and white achievement? By the way, we have just a limited amount of time, sir.
I think we're on the right track now. Our math scores have went up by 10% over the last 3 years. We currently implement a new literacy program where we reduced the number of reading program from 19 to 1. And some of the support services that have been taken out the district over the year, we currently restoring those, but the main focus has to be building our reading capacity and continue building the math.
In about 15 seconds, what about accountability?
Oh, we just instituted one of the most comprehensive accountability reform packages at MPS since 1992.
Okay. Dr. Bonds, thank you so much for joining us, sir. On next week, Mayor Barrett will be joining us to discuss this issue.
Over the weekend, Milwaukeeans gathered to pay tribute to one of our community elders, Reuben Harpo. Liddy Collins has that story.
Our paramount chief, Reuben K. Harpo.
A community street named for a man who loves his community, Reuben Harpo Jr.
When I think of Reuben Harpo, I think of our community. I think of someone that really cares about our community and just seems like they are put here for a purpose of bringing people together.
When I think of Reuben Harpo, I think of an ambassador, the ambassador to the city of Milwaukee.
When I think of Reuben Harpo, I think about Walnut Street, good old days, people who knows the history of Milwaukee and also knows the history of Black Milwaukee.
For those who don't know who you are, who is Reuben Harpo?
Well, Reuben Harpo is a homeboy who loves the people in Milwaukee, grew up with them on Walnut Street. In fact, I'm part of the Walnut Street Social Gathering Club, all right? And sort of backed into working with the university when I came home from the Army and saw this community was in such a terrible shape. Kids were shooting BB guns, shooting BB guns at the windows of schools, and I knew that if I started having children, I certainly wouldn't want my kids to go to school like that. That's what really got me started.
Reuben Harpo Jr. studied chemistry in college with plans of becoming a research doctor to find a cure for diabetes. He gave up that dream when he couldn't find a job in that field of work. And then, as his wife said, he became the connector, connecting people, ideas, and resources.
He's committed to the community, and especially children, and education. And I think that is what drives him.
I think of Reuben as our community historian. He just has a wealth of knowledge and information, but more importantly, he is willing to share that knowledge and information with everyone, especially our young people, so that they will know about our rich, proud heritage.
Milwaukee was the only first-class city in the state.
Reuben told us why the black community changed over time.
Class 8 city. That expressway really messed up a tremendous tight family. And so a lot of people left the community. And in 1979, 1980, 81, it was the worst winter I've ever seen in my life, and it ran about 20,000 people out of the city. And then our children are growing up, and they don't want to stay here because of the attitude, the negative attitude that's in the air from both the African American community and from the newspapers. We call that mythology, someone else's mythology, pushing it on to the whole group of people. If the schools would straighten up, you'd see a complete change.
Why did you never not run for political office?
I didn't think I was smart enough for politics. I really did not. I thought maybe other people who had a degree, they had a lot of people with degrees walking around the community, but they weren't doing anything with the degrees. So I said, hey, let them, they've studied, they can go in and they know accounting procedures and they know how to talk with people and so forth, let them run. But I just decided that I could best serve by not running for politics. I'm gonna tell you, true, I regret that I didn't, because some of the people who were in there did not do what I could have done.
Reuben knows the challenges of Milwaukee and of the African American community.
Overall, Milwaukee, the biggest challenges was recognize the talent in other people besides just themselves. With the African American community, I have two words for it. The first word is ignorance. And not to put anyone down, but ignorance simply means you don't know. The second word is conceptualization. And that simply means that you can't see the picture. You put ignorance and the lack of conceptualization together, you got chaos.
Harpo not only cares for his community, he cares for his family. As a husband, his wife said he is kind, considerate, and patient. And as a father,
he is just wonderful in that he will, seek out opportunities and encourage the children to do whatever they feel that they can do, and that the world is endless to what they can do.
I didn't really grow to appreciate my dad until I was an adult.
Annette, his daughter, said her dad playing the sax and his love of music contributes to his love of people. And
he loves Milwaukee. He toured in Korea for the Army, and he briefly went away to New York to try his hand at playing saxophone. But for the most part, he's always been a Milwaukeean. And if you tell him about other places, he just thinks Milwaukee is the best. And so he doesn't understand when people say they don't like Milwaukee, there's nothing here or whatever. He's always, okay, let's make it happen. What ideas do you have to make Milwaukee better? He always likes to say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And so if you see something wrong or you don't like something, then you be the instrument of change. Don't, complain, but, think of a way to make it better or make it happen. So that's what my dad has taught me over the years.
His wife said he is a very spiritual and positive person and want people to remember him as a caring person.
A person who loves his community, a person who spent his life trying to motivate other people and trying to encourage people to be the best that they could be, including his family. And I'd like for them also to remember an individual who thought beyond himself and thought about the impact our behavior has on the whole community.
What do you think the people in the black community should focus on or work on?
That's an easy question. They should work on the next generation of leaders. That means their children and grandchildren. Make sure that they can read and make sure they do their homework. Because if not, if they don't, they'll be lost.
I think we've been blessed to have a man such as Reuben in our lives. Reuben is a man that has constantly tried to bring about positive change within our community. You know, the world has had Dr. Martin Luther King. Milwaukee's been blessed to have Reuben Harpo. I salute you, my brother.
The legendary Apollo Theater in New York is celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. Closer to home, the Milwaukee Rep's new production of Soultime at the Apollo is a tribute to the Harlem Theater's history and heritage. Everett Marshburn has that story.
Yes, it's showtime at the world-famous Apollo Theater, and we bring you the Harlem Variety Review.
The one and only Lionel Hampton and his orchestra.
For 3/4 of a century, the Apollo Theater was the place to be. In fiction, the Broadway musical Dreamgirls begins there, and in fact, virtually every successful black entertainer has performed there.
No more walking the floor with that burning inside.
Hey, folks, here's a story about Minnie the Moocher. He was a red-hot hoochie-coochie.
Bolero, he glanced as I danced the bolero. Instead, taking off his sombrero, took me for a sweet siesta.
But the Apollo wasn't restricted. White acts performed there as well.
Every generation ushered in a new form of music. It wasn't just a new song, a whole new form. The whole big band swing era of the 30s. So you had people like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, Fletcher Henderson, Chick Webb, which then led to, during economic times, they started downsizing the big bands, and these quartets and quintets with Dizzy. Bebop was discovered right down the street, really, from the Apollo Theater in a club called Minton's Playhouse, which is on 118th Street. You had then bebop, and you had the song stylists of Nat King Cole and Billy Eckstine and Dinah Washington and Billie Holiday and Sarah Vaughan. I mean, Betty Carter, the list goes on. And each decade, what's fascinating to me, that each decade pushed in this new music that changed the American and world landscape. And I can't think of any other theater institution in the world that has had that much music come through its doors and have that much impact on how people look at themselves.
And now, the Apollo's history has been lovingly transformed into a musical review, currently playing at the Milwaukee Rep Stackner Cabaret.
See, I'd like to see you looking swell, baby. Diamond bracelets, Woolworth doesn't sell, baby. Till that lucky day, you know darn well, baby, I can't give you anything but love.
Ramsey has written a number of shows for the Rep, including Fire on the Bayou, Grafton City Blues, and If These Shoes Could Talk.
I've been in the backstage area of the Apollo. I've never sat in any seats in the Apollo to view a show, but I feel a connection with Harlem. I mean, what's interesting about returning to Milwaukee Rep to do Soultime at the Apollo is that in 1993, I co-wrote a show called If These Shoes Could Talk with another great writer named Lee Summers. And it was set at the Apollo Theater, in front of the Apollo Theater on a shoe shine stand. and it starred Harold Nicholas of the legendary tap dance team, the Nicholas Brothers. And so 16 years later, I'm somehow returning back to the Apollo. This time we're inside and we're in the basement. So you can see I've always had a fascination with that building and what it represents.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? Reefer man! Have you ever met that funny reefer man? Reefer man! If they say you walk the ocean.
The show pays tribute to the dancers and comedians who perform there.
Reefer man!
Next time, we'll go backstage and meet the talented cast.
Oh, do tell me the one about the cuckoo clock.
Soultime at the Apollo continues at the Milwaukee Rep Stackner Cabaret through November 8th, 2009.
And we've got 4 pairs of tickets to the show to give to 4 contestants who correctly answer the following question.
Name the Tony Award-winning musical whose first scene takes place at the Apollo Theater.
The question again, name the Tony Award-winning musical whose opening scene takes place at the Apollo Theater.
If you know the answer, send it to us with your name, address, and phone number. You can email it to us at nouveau@matc.edu or snail mail us at Black Nouveau, 1036 North 8th Street, 4th floor, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53233. You have until September 23rd to submit your entry. 4 winners will be randomly selected from the correct entries, and each winner receives 2 free tickets to see Soultime at the Apollo, courtesy of the Milwaukee Rep.
There's a lot of good theater going on in Milwaukee. We'd like to also remind you that the Hansberry Sands Theater is presenting What Would Jesus Do? A provocative, intergenerational, and interfaith drama with music that looks at many of today's social issues. It will be playing for the next 2 weekends at Vogel Hall at the Marcus Center for the Performing Arts.
I'd like to personally and officially welcome Milton to Black Nouveau.
Thank you, Faith, so much. Pleasure's mine. Well, Faith, according to the old clock on the wall, that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
In the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night.